Where to start today?
We're going to the mountains. We're getting out of here.
Deeper changes are taking place in our region with far more impact, particularly longer term on our own country. The unannounced Chinese naval visit is emblematic of changing power dynamics in our region. Our government likes to talk about Australia's largest ever peacetime naval build-up, but our efforts are utterly feeble compared to China's military expansion, which is at breakneck speed and tracking in parallel with its
She's
economic
fired a
growth.
broadside at her own government, telling The Australian that Scott Morrison's cabinet of group thinkers and those responsible for the decision have sought refuge in appeasement. They were totally outmanoeuvred by Beijing.
The Chinese naval flag flies proudly as 3 warships enter Sydney Harbour, docking at Sydney's Garden Island. Many were surprised by the visit.
Be allowed to go free. Well now, my friend. Well now.
All right, check it out. All right. Look pretty cool, though, man.
I would say they were way off course. This is very unusual.
As we saw earlier, 3 Chinese warships have docked in Sydney Harbour today in what's being described as a routine visit. The timing is certainly interesting as Scott Morrison visits the Solomon Islands. As we saw there earlier with Jackson Williams, he's very much focused on trying to keep Australia's profile in the region and maintain the status quo there. These Chinese warships, he says, this visit was arranged some weeks ago. It certainly surprised some, though, around the harbour of Sydney. Carolyn Marcus.
Just in 40 years, China has come from abject poverty to the world's second largest economy, and it's building military strength to match. It's worth remembering. The political liberation that was supposed to come, liberalisation that was supposed to come with more economic freedom has never happened. The Chinese communists never intended to relax the dictatorship of the proletariat, and under President Xi, the Chinese state is probably more pervasive and more controlling than at any other time since Chairman Mao. Ask the Uyghurs, ask the Falun Gong, ask the business people who fall foul of some local party chieftain.
Friend, but yes, we're aware of it, and I'm glad you brought this up. And China is literally trying to mark its territory with you, and I think it's going to backfire. What do you think?
I don't know, Alex. I don't know. It's not good. It's either way, it's not good.
Well, you let those Chi-Coms pull any type of physical force, and they're going to get their ass blown off one way or the other. They admit it's a provocative move to let you know they're in command. What do you make of that?
They're doing a drive-by. They've failed, and I say what they're trying to do is they're testing their stealth weapons.
Australian Army! We're going to get you out!
The timing of the vessel's arrival is being questioned, though, as Scott Morrison visits the Solomon Islands in what experts say is a bid to counter Chinese influence in the Pacific. It's also the eve of the 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. That was not on the minds of a group of Chinese Australians allowed
Chinese
to tour
government
the
has
ships.
constructed a jet airport located close to the coast, approximately 30 kilometres from the huge port of Cape Preston, where over 16 million tonnes of products are exported to China each year. The airport runway is similar to the Royal Australian Air Force runways in Queensland and the Northern Territory, where Australia's fighter aircraft are based. Australia could not repel military aircraft if they landed from carriers offshore. A superior military air force could, in effect, control all of Western Australia's resources in the Pilbara and the North West Shelf gas reserves.
That's one of ours.
conflict between great powers would be unthinkable in the modern era of nuclear weaponry and other things, but just because it's unthinkable doesn't mean it could never happen.
What is going on?
Chinese state-owned companies have exercised control over all these facilities, contrary to the security of Australia. Chinese government-controlled parties exercising control raises serious security concerns. If ever there was a breakdown of diplomatic relations with China and hostilities were to commence, Chinese control of Cape Preston port would mean Western Australia and its resources would be completely vulnerable. It is beyond belief that the Chinese government-owned companies control and occupy an airstrip that are able to take jet aircraft for their exclusive use at Cape
they
Preston.
just basically sailed in willy-nilly, and we didn't. No one knew they were coming.